Hi, welcome to Breadcrumbs Investigates. I don't do original investigations because, frankly, I don't have the time or the resources. But I do see the work that other people do and either agree or disagree with it. And sometimes some of the work that I end up agreeing with is work that is covered up by other agencies. A great example is that of dinosaurs. We have found soft tissue on dinosaur fossils around the world. This is not a made-up thing. This is an established fact. Dinosaur fossils have soft tissue within them. So much so that once you get them in proper solution, you can even experience and see the elasticity, and you can get DNA from them. You also can get carbon dating material from the soft tissue. And consistently, and it's been documented, that dinosaurs come back from between 35 to 25,000 years old from the finds all over the world. Now, why do you not know about this? Well, because it destroys an entire industry. And it absolutely destroys academia. All those paleontologists, all of the Darwinian theory backers, the entire breadth and scope of academia would be destroyed if it was allowed to be known that dinosaurs are not millions of years old, but thousands of years old. So that's one gigantic conspiracy and cover-up. You know, go ahead and comment and say, you don't know what you're talking about. Do your research. Before you tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, do your own research. Jesus, Lord, have mercy. Do you think I cannot come up with, oh, well, maybe I was wrong about that? Yeah, I've been wrong about things, but if you have documentation, and if you have a nice trail of breadcrumbs to get to that whole loaf of truth, that whole loaf of truth being is that there are genetic residue in this soft tissue, and this soft tissue can be carbon dated, and some of the genetic material has been sequenced. So it's not me that is ignorant, it's you that has to do some research and stop listening to network news and start paying attention to stuff that's actually happening and do some of your own research. Another thing that is happening right now, well, this is happening right now, and that is that the federal government, the U.S. federal government, has done a 180. The Pentagon, the Navy specifically, has done a 180 on UFOs, unidentified flying objects. Aliens. Inversion is aliens. And the Pentagon has admitted that videos that have been leaked to media, especially the New York Times, of go-fast objects, super fast moving objects that move in trajectories that normal aircraft cannot. And a lot of them, not just one, but many of them, but they have 3 videos that have been leaked, and then these 3 videos have been confirmed by the Pentagon saying they are real and they don't know what they are. If we have go-fast moving objects on this planet, it's not Americans doing it, it's not the Russians, it's not the Chinese, then it's the aliens, and it's okay to admit it. Because we just had something happen in space. A comet was destroyed in the same manner of any fast-moving projectile was destroyed, and something destroyed it. So we've got some things coming our way over the next couple of months. The government doesn't do these kind of releases and this kind of slow drip, drip, drip of information unless they're trying to prepare us for an event. So these are how conspiracies happen, and it's the management of information. Shakespeare. How did Shakespeare become a conspiracy? There's no documentation of the man from from Stratford, William Shakespeare, son of John Shakespeare, ever being able to write. Never left the country and did not have the fundamental experience to be able to write the experience that William Shakespeare did. He did not have command of the English language or the Latin language. He didn't have command of any language. He was from Stratford-upon-Avon, which back during the Renaissance was a shithole. It was a horrible place to live. It was stinky, danky, and nasty. It's one of the reasons why William Shakespeare left his wife and 4 children to go to London to be his father's company's representative and to see if he could make some money. And he didn't do it by writing plays. Here is the cover-up. Here is what I have come to find out and learn. The Virgin Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, had 2 illegitimate children. The oldest being Edward de Vere, who ended up being the 17th Count of Oxford, and the very incredible Sir Francis Bacon. Now, I am not going to go into all of the background in this video and the details of how these 2 individuals came to become known as they become known. But they, through much research of many, many brilliant scholars who did not allow for standard academia to roadblock them, have been able to decipher that Edward de Vere and Francis Bacon were in fact the illegitimate children of Queen Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen. And why would that happen? First of all, Queen Elizabeth was a passionate woman. There's no doubt about that. And of course, she never married. So there's always been a question of her sexuality. And in so many ways, you don't even want to question or even think about it. But what you do realize is that as you grow older, you do have your passions. But also, Queen Elizabeth had her politics. And if she were to marry, she would lose the throne. It was very rare to have a queen sit on a throne of a country, especially a dynamic and very formal country, structured country like England. And it was a very interesting time the way she became queen, and she became a great queen. But if she were to marry, she would lose her throne. England would be lost as a country and would be taken in by another country because she would have to marry a royal. If she married a commoner, she would lose the throne. If she married another royal, it would be from another country because there wasn't a royal great enough within Great Britain for her to ascend to marry. So it would have to be a king of another country. And the minute that happens, England loses their queen, England loses their sovereignty, England loses being Great Britain. So the Virgin Queen had to stay single. She didn't have to stay virgin. This is the Renaissance. This is the time of Shakespeare. This is time of great sonnets, passion, intrigue. Definitely court intrigue in the palace. These are handsome knights that are around the queen all the time. I mean, these were the true nobles. The Renaissance, please. This is when things were just so much passion and parties and flirting and power. Oh, power. Power is its own intoxicant. Power is flirting. And who amongst the noble, who amongst the court wouldn't want to bed the beautiful and vivacious and intelligent and intoxicating queen? And did not she want to be bedded? So I'm not going to allude to the father of either or both Sir Francis Bacon or Sir Edward de Vere, Lord Edward de Vere. But I will tell you that as you research these two great individuals, their writings, their passions, their involvement in the Rosicrucia, and their involvement in the Masonic order, which back then was not what we try to label them as now. The Masonic order has always been a gathering of like-minded individuals that want to bring freedom, knowledge, wisdom, and learning to the masses. It's not a mystery anymore that the United States of America, the Constitution, and the brilliant minds that wrote that incredible document and established a true republic based on democratic principles, that this would be a nation of laws, not of personalities. That's a Masonic ideal. And the implementation of Masonic ideals in many ways has been excellent. And Edward de Vere and Francis Bacon, they were surrounded by passionate, intelligent Masons and Rosicrucians who loved intellectual intrigue, intellectual adventure, giving each other signals in writings and sending Masonic messages and leaving Masonic messages in the writings of these incredibly heady Renaissance times. And the masters of English of these days were both the Tudor princes, Francis Bacon and Edward de Vere. And their mother made sure that they had the finest education, and they were in court and they were hearing some of the most incredible arguments, and they were engaged in their own arguments with their friends. And this was very, very incredible and passionate time. Why Shakespeare was a nom de plume? Why did these two fine gentlemen write as the pen name Shakespeare, William Shakespeare? Well, first of all, if you came out in public with passionate ideals in poetry, you were labeled a troublemaker in the court. The law and the structured way of England to this day still frowns upon frivolity and nonsense and silly musings. They are a very much dyed-in-the-wool structured society that obeys certain principles and not musings. But Sir Francis Bacon and Lord Edward de Vere, oh, they mused. And they got together with their friends and they performed plays and they performed acts and they did things that they did in court, but they did it differently whenever they were together, and they acted different parts and they said things that were incredible. They knew it was incredible, so they were writing these things down, and they were also putting in the structure of Masonic symbolism within the writings, and enlightened things, not evil things, enlightenment. Please understand, Masonry, Rosicrucia, these were efforts of enlightenment. And enlightenment is not good for government. Enlightenment is not good for royalty. It's not good for control. And so that's why these men engaged in the enlightening acts. So they did write in the pen name of William Shakespeare. And why Shakespeare? Because they were shaking their spear at ignorance. They were shaking their spear at the control of the structured way of things. They wanted people to engage in passionate and diverse dialogue, and to bring such new ideas as they did to England and to the courts of England, not to the court of England, but to courts of Europe as well. And so Queen Elizabeth read Shakespeare. Queen Elizabeth saw Shakespeare plays performed for her privately. She was very aware of Shakespeare. After she died, King James was the same way. And they were aware of William Shakespeare. They flattered him. The poets of the time of William Shakespeare's life and shortly after he died fawned upon him. But there is no indication that the man from Stratford is in fact this William Shakespeare. He was a drunkard. He was a businessman. And he did not write. And he was not a man of letters. When he died, he had real estate and he had some holdings. He had no books. His children were illiterate. His grandchildren were illiterate. So this is an incredible journey of discovery if you want to embark on it on your own. And I am going to continue to do it as the Breadcrumbs Project Investigate video series. So I'm laying the groundwork. This is what I'm going to talk about and how it happened and how incredible it is and how fun it is to rediscover this. And these men knew that they were hiding something and they were hiding it in plain sight. And they knew that over time this truth would be discovered. So they left many, many clues. And so did their friends. And it's not just the two great Tudor princes, Bacon and De Vere. It's also the company they kept, their friends, and their brilliance that was incorporated into Shakespeare. Because if you are a writer, you can only write from your perspective. It's hard for you to get in the minds of many different people. But as you see a Shakespearean play and you read a Shakespearean manuscript, you see that all these characters are different. They're not coming from one point of view. They have all their own lives, their own ideas. So the company of these two men, and they held court together in privacy and secrecy. They did these plays, they wrote these plays, they performed these plays. After De Vere passed away, his brother carried on with the Shakespeare tradition of bringing truth to the masses. And the Globe Theatre was about that. The Globe Theatre was bringing these ideas of Shakespeare to the poor and downtrodden, and the royalty frowned upon this. The royalty did not go to the Globe. They did not watch plays there. They watched their plays in the palace. Thank you very much. But the the brothers Bacon and De Vere and their company of enlightened friends built and opened the Globe Theatre to bring these amazing productions at virtually no cost to the masses. These are men that should and will be celebrated as time goes on. This is the Breadcrumbs Project, and this is Breadcrumbs Investigates. Ah, what a grand mystery.